Hi guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to have some Jon Jones gameplay, and I believe starts off in Division 14 against Gustafsson that's in Division 17, and then we move over to a higher division gameplay. I can't quite remember what it is, but I think I was in Division 20, and it's coming up against an opponent in which I despise the playstyle my opponent was using. He was a created fighter, and you'll see more of that after this Gustafsson fight here. So getting into it, my opponent is obviously using Alexander Gustafsson, relatively the same height. We know that Gustafsson gave Jon a lot of trouble in real life, and he's a decent counter to Jon Jones just because Jon's weakness really in the game is boxing, and Gustafsson has elite boxing, so even kickboxing. Gustafsson has a good range of kicks. Obviously, in comparison to Jon Jones, he isn't going to have the greatest kicking arsenal, but coming up against a Jon, if you really prioritise going for those legs, because that's where he's weakest, you can do a lot of damage. And me using Jon here, I'm aware to all those things. I know what my opponent could do. Therefore, I'm trying to keep the fight. At kicking range. My opponent's using spinning elbows, so I hit him with one there. You can see I'm trying to throw the teeps. I'm trying to read how this Gustafsson player is moving about, and what combinations Gustafsson's going to throw. And I can see early on that the Gustafsson I'm coming up against here is really using a lot of spinning elbows, and it's only a matter of time before I take the fight to the ground. And I'm slowly starting to, fall in love with using Jon Jones. And I didn't use him for a long time just because how other people used him. He was a very cheesy and sort of toxic player to come up against. But if you use him in a sim-like manner and you keep the fights realistic, then there's no reason why you can't use Jon. I know every now and then, obviously, in real life, he's very creative with his elbows and etc. So I don't really count it as cheesy if you're using like the spinning elbows and stuff. But it's if you're spamming them and chaining them and using that helicopter kick, the kick that you can throw in boxing range, and that if it lands, basically knocks out your opponent. I try to stay away from all those things and just try to fight in the most sim-like manner. And quickly, just while we're at this segment of the video, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone that supported the channel as of recently. Over 200 subs now, growing at a very good pace. I just want to say thank you to everyone that likes the videos, likes the streams, and to all the OGs, the subscribers that have been here for a while, and to the new ones, I just want to say a massive thank you. Got a very excited video coming out probably sometime next week against a content creator that I'm a very big fan of, so look forward to that. I should be getting the best of 3 in. But right here you can see that I'm just controlling the Gustafsson on the ground here, throwing some good ground and pound. And that's one thing that with Jon Jones you can really utilise, is Jon is malicious and extremely vicious once he gets his opponents to the ground. And you can see here that I've got Gustafsson on the ground now, relentlessly throwing elbows. The ground and pound's been very, very effective. When it does land, it does so much damage. And the work that I've done in that round alone has definitely impacted the way this fight is going to go on, because this Gustafsson now knows that as soon as the fight gets to the ground, there's nothing that he could throw that he's even going to put me off, or there's no transitions he can do to try and escape. Because that round, although the Gustafsson got me into full guard at one point, it was very easy to get out of my opponent's full guard and then transition into relentless ground and pound. And you can see, knocked him over here with the teep kick, go for the judo throw again, but Gustafsson this time denies, and that's just being smart. Obviously that takedown worked in the first. I tried to go for it again, but Gustafsson this time managed to deny. And you can see now that teep kicks are being thrown both ways, front kicks are being thrown both ways. And this is what normally happens when you start to have success in one thing. You'll notice that often or not, the person you're fighting against will start to mimic those things. One thing I'm starting to utilise more with Jon Jones, where possible, again, I don't really want to be very cheesy, but is the knees. Jon Jones' knees, especially in the clinch, are extremely, extremely strong. And I don't know what level they are, but I just feel like every time they land, they absolutely drain either your opponent's stamina or wherever you're hitting. If it's to the body, it absolutely rinses the stamina, and if it's to the head, absolutely rinses the head health. So that's something that if you are a Jon Jones player, I would try to utilise. Again, I know sometimes coming up against a Jon Jones player, you take a lot of knees, and it looks like your opponent's knee spamming, but a lot of the time they might be going for teep kicks and it's just transitioned into that knee. That's what happens to me a lot. I know it happens to other fighters that use John. I know I watch a lot of JMA's videos, and he has that problem when using a wide range of fighters. You go to throw the teep and it transitions to the knee, and it just looks like your knee spamming. So that's one thing to be aware of. But right now, you can just see that it's just dominating control here. Got my opponent onto the ground, had my opponent's back. I just rolled him with these transitions, throwing strikes where possible, building up GA, denying, and it's just going to be relentless, constant pressure on the ground with looking to use ground and pound strikes. And this is one thing that with John, you're not limited to just one aspect on the ground, like you have to look for a submission. John is vicious when it comes to both. If you lock in submissions with John, they're very, very easy to finish, and John has a wide variety of submissions that he can use. But with the ground and pound, you can really look to get your opponent out of there. And everyone knows how good John is on the ground. You can see I'm controlling my opponent here with ease. Got around 40 seconds to go, throwing those elbows from side to side. And again, every time my opponent transitions to a position where he thinks maybe I can get up, I'll rotate, drag Gustafsson back down to the ground, as you can see here. And once Gustafsson's back on the ground, I'm going to look to do more of the same, deny these transitions and throw some strikes. So posture up here, which I don't normally do. I think it's just because there wasn't too much time left on the clock, and I just wanted to get some more significant strikes in. And one thing that always puzzles me is that I don't understand quite how the game measures significant strikes, because a lot of the time when I'm in side control or crucifix and I'm throwing elbows and absolutely demolishing my opponent's face, somehow, some way, not all of those strikes count as significant. I think that definitely needs to be relooked at for the next game. But you can see that Gustafsson right now doesn't have the head health, keeps trying the spinning elbow, hoping that it's going to land and change the course of the fight. Go for the flying knee there, just because I thought that if it was well timed, could get a knockout finish. But you can see that I'm maintaining very, very patient. I'm more than comfortable being in the boxing exchanges now, purely because of the fact that my opponent's stamina is a lot lower. He seems to have given up right now, and also because of the fact that my opponent's head health is a lot lower. Based on it being lower, I've got a higher probability of knocking down my opponent, and whereas Jon Jones' head health is very, very, very good when it comes to recovery, where mine's higher, his is lower. I'm okay with these boxing exchanges, but you can see there that was a beautiful finish. That flying knee was timed to perfection. It was a phenomenal knockout, and this is just some of the things that you can do with Jon. And getting into the next fight here, you can see fighting a created fighter, Division 20. I'm in Division 18 at this point, and this is just when I was grinding on stream, ranking my way up, trying to get to Division 20. And whenever I come up against created fighters, I've always said that I don't really like to fight created fighters. I don't think it makes sense for them to be on ranked. I understand career mode. That makes more than enough sense. I completely understand that. It's just the way created fighters fight. And I don't want to generalize, because not all created fighters fight like this. However, you're either going to come up against like jiu-jitsu specialists that's just going to look to take you down. But it's more the skill set on the feet that's concerning. It's the fact that they've got the crane kicks, the helicopter kicks, every kick that you can count as cheesy, or every strike you can count as cheesy. A created fighter will specifically have those strikes, and it just makes it increasingly hard to fight against them. And you can see the way my opponent's fighting here, the style my opponent's choosing to implement, just it's a very toxic style. And I know there's another YouTuber out there that fights like this. Can't remember the name off the top of my head, but promoting this style of fighting just isn't it, where you have to guess, okay, is it a crane kick, or is it the helicopter kick, is it going to my body? And you can beat these guys on the feet, of course. It's not impossible. However, I can see why players that use created fighters in this way get the wins they do and rank up the divisions as quick as they do, because most of the time you're coming up against players that won't know how to deal with this style of fight. And even myself, who's, I'd say I'm average at the game, I'm nowhere near the best, especially when it comes to the stand-up. But it's incredibly hard to deal with this style of fight. This is a style that I struggle with, and you can see right now what I'm doing is I'm rotating away, keeping a distance, trying to guess what my opponent's throwing. But the main thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look to get this fight onto the ground as I did earlier, but my opponent done a good job in reversing the position. Whenever I come up against fighters like this, I'm going to take them to the ground, and I'm going to look to just smother them and look for a submission finish. Ground and pound where possible, depends who you're using. Obviously, in this situation here, you're using Jon Jones, and Jon Jones, as you see in the fight before, his ground and pound is unreal. So if the opportunity presents itself to get my opponent out there with ground and pound, I'll most certainly look to do that. But it's a case by case subject. So this fighter here I'm fighting, who's a great fighter, I don't want to let this fight get back onto the feet. So when opting to throw ground and pound, I've got to be very, very careful, purely because of the fact that if I look to throw ground and pound and my opponent ends up reversing the position, it's going to be detrimental, because once the fight gets back onto the feet, my opponent's going to continue to throw those cheesy kicks, and it's only a matter of time, because even if I'm in boxing range and my opponent throws that helicopter kick, it lands, I'm getting knocked clean out. It doesn't matter what happened before that. So that's always something that's on my mind. But you can see that once these fighters get to the ground, majority of them don't know what to do. Like, they just try a transition to get out. You deny a couple transitions and you'll be able to get a submission finish, as you can see here. Managed to put my opponent to sleep. And yeah, Jon Jones, that's what I'm saying. This is how good he can be, especially with the submissions. Denied, then got the arm triangle. But yeah, this is definitely my least favourite playstyle to play against. This is why one of the main reasons I don't like fighting against great fighters. But I thought it would be interesting to showcase to you guys this fight here, because I know you come up against it a lot. So that's going to be the video of me using Jon today. Let me know if you guys use Jon Jones on ranks, and if you use him in a sim or a cheesy way. That's going to be the video. If you liked the video, don't forget to leave a like. If you're new around here, subscribe for more UFC 4 content, and I'll catch you next time. Thank you.